It's been 1 year since I first started learning how to ride a motorcycle, and it's been a crazy year. And I'm going to tell you guys 8 things that I learned over my first year of riding. But before I show you the 8 things, I gotta celebrate, right? I taught myself how to ride a motorcycle myself, as in there was not a physical person there showing me the ropes of what to do.
What? Bro, what are you talking about, man?
So what happens to a person who teaches himself how to ride a motorcycle in Africa after 1 whole year? When I first started riding, I thought it would just be that, a little riding. Just something to try out, something a little cool to do a little bit. But what I didn't expect is how fast motorcycling would completely take over my life. Motorcycling, it just pulls you in. You can feel the road, the weather, the environment. Every ride is different. It can be unpredictable. It's not just to travel or get around to point A to point B. Riding is like a sensory overload in the most amazing way. And some of the routes I've taken aren't even roads. I just follow a trail and then adjust. Riding in a car in comparison is like living or traveling in 2D. Riding a motorcycle is like living in 3D or living life in 360 degrees. Riding a motorcycle is a full body experience. And once you live like that, it's really hard to go back. I hope to be riding a very long time. The second thing I learned is the importance of being intentional with your practice. And what I mean by that is some people feel like they're practicing whenever they ride. And yes, riding itself is a form of practice, but I found that there's something different about setting aside time to specifically train. For me, turning into traffic I was afraid to do that. So I wanted to kind of practice my turns, left turns, right turns, all of that. I didn't want to have to be practicing that right when I was at the intersection, especially with how crazy traffic is. And I realized that I was not really mastering the friction zone with the throttle and clutch. So because I was not mastering that, when I would reach those intersections, I was having a bit of hesitation, and that's not really the time to hesitate. So I went out to an open field and just practiced turns, balance, throttle, clutch over and over again until it started to click. And so then when I went to those intersections again, I felt ready. And I also practiced things like U-turns and braking. I didn't want to just sort of know it. I wanted to lock it in. So for me, intentional practice turns fear into flow, and that really made a difference. And I also included weaving, balance drills. I just don't want those things to be things I kind of know. I want them to be second nature. I wanted to stop riding with that sliver of doubt in the back of my mind, and practicing helps that. Number 3, I learned this year that being smooth is extremely important in sketchy conditions, i.e. low traction environments. In the far north, like if I'm riding in sand, I know that I can't be making sudden moves. If I'm going downhill on loose dirt, I know that I can't be tense, I can't be grabbing too much brake or roll too hard on the throttle, and that if I do that, it's really easy to lose traction. So when in doubt, keep it smooth. I try to stay loose, keep things gentle. If the bike wants to move underneath me, that's normal in a low traction environment. I've had to learn this the hard way many times. I'm actually still learning it. Sometimes I forget these lessons and I mess myself up, and it's even happened to me recently. But I have gotten better over time just by being gentle on the throttle. Even if I'm in rain conditions, mud, it's like the same thing. Anything that's sketchy to me, I'm going to be very smooth on the brake, very smooth on the throttle, having really controlled clutch control. So it's really not about going fast, but I just want to be balanced, planted, and not do anything abrupt. The fourth thing I learned was how to lean the bike. And it's not that I've mastered it at all. I'm completely far away from mastering it, but I finally started to understand when to lean with the bike and when to lean against it. because I used to see people doing these really hard leans at crazy angles, dragging me, and I'm thinking like, whoa, that's like, the real serious motorcycle riders. However, when you're on off-road or at low speeds, it's the opposite. You often will counter lean, which is keeping your body more upright while letting the bike lean underneath you. So when I'm practicing counter leaning, I practice it with putting more weight on the outside peg, especially in dirt or tight turns, whether I'm on pavement, at low speeds, whether I'm on dirt. Basically, I'm more focused on my body positioning than having some sort of really drastic lean. However, once you start going faster, leaning with the bike is what you should do, because at that point, the gyroscopic forces of the bike will start to kick in, and then the bike will just more stay upright. So even if you're leaning on the bike, you're leaning over with the bike, the gyroscopic forces want to keep that bike upright. So that's what I do when I'm going at higher speeds. I tend to lean with the bike, but however, if I'm going at lower speeds or on dirt, then I'm going to be doing counter leaning. I'm not a racer. I'm not going to probably ever drag knee, but I've learned it's not about how far you lean. It's about knowing the correct body positioning for the correct type of riding I'm doing in the moment. The fifth thing I've learned this year is how important it is to anticipate, especially riding where I do in Africa, where pretty much anything can happen at any time. If I see something up ahead that's looking sketchy, a pedestrian near the road, a goat, a truck creeping out, I don't wait to react. I will ease off the throttle early. Many times I will cover the brake just in case so I can increase my reaction time. And doing all that does not mean anticipation isn't just a skill. It's a very necessary part for me to stay safe while I'm riding, especially in a busy or unpredictable place. The sixth thing I learned this year is how much riding a motorcycle can help mental health. I had no idea how good I would feel after riding a motorcycle. Every time I go back, I come back feeling better. I have less stress, I feel like I have more clarity, and even if I'm physically tired, I just feel lighter. And then some days the kind of riding I'm doing is more like cruising. It's just peaceful riding, feeling the wind, watching the world, the beautiful scenery all around me, just enjoying. And other times it's the thrill of the off-road riding and the focus it takes to stay upright, going up and down crazy hills. And that's really fun having that challenge. But either way, generally speaking, riding is going to demand 100% of your attention. You can't really zone out. And so you have to be really engaged, mentally engaged, alert. That kind of gets rid of all the other noise in your head, maybe thoughts of pressure, stress, worry. It fades away when you're focusing on motorcycling. Riding the motorcycle on the road clears my head. I didn't really expect that when I started riding, but now I know that going out to ride my motorcycle is like getting a mental reset. The seventh thing I've learned is how incredibly important it is to ride with gear. Honestly, I don't understand how anyone rides without it, especially for someone who's a beginner. Like for real, I don't understand, because as a new rider, I've had my fair share of falls this year, from low speed drops, slide on the ground, the bike landing on my leg, even hits to the helmet from my head hitting the ground. And that's just part of the learning, and, especially riding here in Africa with rough roads and loose stones all over the place. But even on better roads in the West, newer riders should still prepare for potential low speed tip overs and low speed falls. Now, none of my falls were high speed, thankfully, but even at low speed, it's easy to get hurt. So gear has saved me from scrapes, bruises, and maybe worse. I sort of like not walking around with various scrapes and little painful boo-boos all over my body. Now, I don't have motorcycle pants yet, but they're on the way on a container ship. I will definitely be using those when I get them. For the gear I do have, every time I've gone down, I've been glad I was geared up. As they say, dress for the slide, not for the ride. That's not just a saying, it actually is really true. And I found it true personally for me. The eighth thing I've learned is how important slow speed riding skills really are. Whether you're on the pavement or going off-road, riding slow is where balance is truly tested. When you're moving fast, the bike feels light and stable, but at low speeds, that's when the bike, really starts feeling heavy, and that's when you're most likely to tip over. So I've had to learn how to handle tight turns, U-turns, and traffic situations where I'm barely moving. And here in Africa, with unpredictable roads, rough surfaces, and random obstacles, going slow is just a part of everyday riding. A lot of it just comes down to clutch and throttle control, knowing when to feed the power, when to ease off, and how to stay balanced. And for me, since I'm short, I can't even touch the ground if I try to extend both legs. This means that I've learned to trust my balance more, and I generally would try to see how long I can even stay upright before putting a foot down. So slow bike control has become one of my most important riding tools. Hey, don't leave just yet. Remember to like the video and subscribe to the channel if you want to continue to follow my adventures as an American expat learning how to ride in Africa. All right, guys, until next time.